So when I was young, I used to think that when I grew up, I would become my dad's dad. As in, I literally thought my dad would stay the same age, and as I grow up, I'll be the only one that's aging, and eventually I'll become older than him, and so I would eventually end up as his biological father. So as you can probably tell, that's like full of shit. But the reason I want to share this story is because that type of thinking of where you just focus so much on yourself and you think you're the only one changing, but not your surroundings, not anyone else, is actually quite dangerous. And I know this is, quite a harmless, funny example, but I want to bring it to the broader point, which is when you just think you're the only one that's changing, you're the only one that's going through life and everything else is static, oftentimes that's just not true. And when you think that people around you are going to stay the same, it's actually going to lead to a lot of disappointment. For example, I remember like back in primary school, primary school, middle school, I used to hang out with a lot of friends. But over time, let's say I went to a different school or I just didn't hang out with them as much. I didn't see them as much. And when I met up with them again, I always had the expectation that we could just continue where we left off in a sense. But oftentimes that's not the case. They end up completely different people. And then when I talk to them again, it's very hard to relive the same experience. And the reason I share this is not to, feel sad about it, but just to realize the very fact that when you go through life, you're not the only one that's changing. And I know it sounds like so weird, but it just reminds me of that, that riddle. So the riddle is like, if right now there's two people, two siblings, one sibling is 10 years old and the other is half that sibling's age, when that sibling, the one that's 10 years old, becomes 20, how old is the other sibling? And it's kind of a catch because you may think, okay, that means the other sibling is half. Okay, so when the other sibling is 20 years old, the other sibling must be 10 years old because half, right? But obviously not, because that's not how time works. It's actually like 15. And so the deeper lesson that I want to convey here is that I found that I sometimes took other people for granted because I assumed that they'll always be the same in their current form, that they'll stay exactly like that, and I'll grow, but they'll stay exactly as they are. And when we focus only on our own growth, but not the transformation that other people go around, we miss appreciating people for what they are right now. We might not be as grateful. We might not, say thank you to a friend for being a great friend, because we always believe that down the line, they'll be the exact same as they are. And it's not their fault that they're changing. It's just because we're all changing down this river of time. And relationships, the thing is, they only exist in the current moment. You never know what they may evolve in down the line. And so, for example, my dad, he won't be the same person he is today as he is 10 years down the line. And you won't be either. And so, the opportunity to connect with someone, to be grateful for someone, exists primarily in the present. And then tomorrow, it's a different type of gratitude because they'll be slightly different. You'll be slightly different. The gratitude is different. But the type of gratitude you have for the current stage should be valued highly because sometimes that opportunity may not come again, or it may not come again in the same form. And so the biggest takeaway I got from this story, which I know it sounds like so small, but linking to the broader point I have here, it's to really be present with people as they are and not expect that their future self is going to align with our expectations of them. Everyone is going to grow at their different paths, and it's important we appreciate them for who they are in the present and not who they are down the line. You want to grow alongside them. You want to, continue to support them if that's what you wish, and that's a great thing to do. But never have the expectation that they're going to stay static, they're going to remain static, and you're going to grow. And so all in all, it's important to plan for how relationships may evolve down the line, but at the same time, it's so important to appreciate the relationships for what they are in the current stage. So with that, take care.